What really got me this week wasn't the military parade itself, it was Princess Leonor's face for about 3 seconds. Not the speech, not the uniform, not even the cameras following her like she's already queen. It was that one moment where she looked completely exhausted, then instantly switched back into future monarch mode the second she noticed people watching. And honestly, that tiny moment said more about her real life than any palace press release ever could. Because I think a lot of people still imagine royal life like some Netflix fantasy, castles, luxury dinners, perfect dresses, smiling for cameras. But behind palace doors, especially in Spain right now, I think Leonor is living inside one of the most controlled human experiments in Europe. And the strangest part is, the public is starting to notice. Not because the palace told us. Because the cracks are becoming impossible to hide. While Prince William and Kate Middleton are presenting this polished, stable monarchy image in Britain, Leonor's entire royal identity feels completely different. Spain isn't selling elegance right now. They're selling endurance. And honestly, it reminds me more of a startup trying to prove itself than an untouchable royal institution. That's why the military training matters so much. That's why every photo suddenly feels strategic. That's why every tiny gesture gets analyzed online for days. Because this isn't just about a princess anymore. This feels like the palace trying to convince Spain that the monarchy still has a future. And I don't think that pressure on a 20-year-old gets talked about enough. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Now here's the thing nobody says out loud. Leonor didn't choose a normal royal path. The palace chose visibility over mystery. That changes everything. Years ago, royals survived by staying distant. Rare appearances, carefully controlled interviews, minimal access. The less people knew, the more powerful the monarchy looked. But now, that strategy is dead. Social media destroyed it. TikTok destroyed it. YouTube commentary destroyed it. And honestly, audiences in 2026 can smell fake PR instantly. So the Spanish palace adapted. Instead of hiding Leonor, they turned her into the working future queen. Military drills, naval training, public ceremonies, formal speeches, international appearances. It's almost like they studied what works online and built a royal strategy around action instead of mystery. And I'll say something controversial here. I actually think it's working. But there's a hidden cost. Because the more the palace shows Leonor, the more human she becomes. And once people see royalty as human, they also start noticing the pressure, loneliness, and exhaustion behind the image. That's dangerous for monarchies. Very dangerous. Look at what happened globally over the last few years. Public opinion shifted fast. People don't automatically respect institutions anymore just because they've existed for centuries. Now audiences ask, what value do they actually bring? What are they sacrificing? What's real and what's performance? That's the real battlefield Leonor inherited. Not politics, perception. And honestly, I think she understands that better than people realize. Watch her carefully during public events. She rarely overreacts, rarely loses composure, rarely looks surprised anymore. That's not accidental. That's training. Years of it. And sometimes I wonder what that does to someone mentally. Like seriously, imagine knowing your entire life has already been planned since childhood. Your career, chosen. Your image, managed. Your mistakes, global headlines. Even your facial expressions become internet debates. That's not normal pressure. That's surveillance disguised as privilege. And I think people are starting to connect with Leonor because of that contradiction. She represents power, while simultaneously looking trapped by it. That combination creates fascination. It's similar to why people became obsessed with royal stories in the first place. Not because royalty looks free. Because royalty often looks imprisoned beautifully. And I know that sounds dramatic, but tell me I'm wrong. Every appearance feels choreographed down to the second. Even the casual moments feel carefully filtered now. But occasionally, very occasionally, something slips through. A tired expression, a delayed reaction, a distant stare during ceremonies. And those tiny human moments spread online faster than official palace footage. That's the modern royal problem. You can control television, you can't control internet interpretation. And this is where Leonor's story gets really interesting to me. Because unlike older royals, she grew up inside internet culture. She understands memes. She understands viral clips. She understands that audiences today don't trust perfection anymore. Actually, perfection can hurt you online now. People trust imperfections more. That's why some of Leonor's most discussed moments aren't glamorous at all. They're awkward moments, serious expressions, visible fatigue, tiny reactions, because they feel real, and I think the palace secretly benefits from that authenticity even if they'd never admit it publicly. It humanizes her. The question is, how long can someone live under that level of visibility before it changes them completely? That's the part one keep thinking about. Because lately, Leonor doesn't just look more disciplined. She looks older emotionally, not older physically, emotionally, and maybe that's what royal duty actually does behind closed doors. It ages your private self faster than your public image. You know what's interesting? A lot of commentators compare Leonor to past queens or princesses. But I actually think her situation is more modern than historical. This isn't just monarchy anymore. It's brand management. And honestly, if someone like Mr. Beast was consulting royal institutions right now, he'd probably tell them exactly what Spain is already doing. Show the process, show the grind, show the sacrifice, because audiences connect to effort more than status now. That's why Leonor training in military academies creates stronger reactions than another palace portrait ever could. The palace understands modern storytelling. But here's my hot take. I think there's also fear underneath all this strategy. Fear that without Leonor carrying this image successfully, public support weakens. Fear that tradition alone won't survive another generation. Fear that modern audiences are simply too skeptical now. And honestly, that fear might be justified. Especially in Europe, you can already feel institutions competing for relevance online every single day. Politicians, celebrities, royal families, even billionaires, everyone is fighting for public trust in the attention economy now. And Leonor sits right in the middle of that battle. Which explains why every appearance suddenly feels bigger than it should. A uniform becomes symbolic. A speech becomes symbolic. Even silence becomes symbolic. That's an exhausting way to live. And I think people underestimate how isolating royal preparation probably is. Who do you even trust? Friends, staff, media, advisors. Imagine constantly wondering whether people see you or the future queen. That changes relationships. It changes personality. It changes identity. And honestly, I think that's what we're slowly witnessing in real time. Not just the making of a queen. The gradual disappearance of a normal young woman underneath the role. That sounds harsh, but watch closely. The transformation is happening publicly now. And maybe that's why audiences can't stop watching her. Because Leonor represents something modern people deeply relate to. Performing strength while privately carrying pressure nobody fully understands. That's not just a royal story anymore. That's basically the entire internet generation. And maybe that's why her story keeps growing globally. Not because people care about crowns. Because people recognize stress, expectation, and performance when they see it. Especially in 2026. Especially online. And honestly, the palace may have accidentally created something far more powerful than a traditional princess image. They created a symbol of controlled pressure in the digital age. The real question is whether Leonor can survive that pressure long enough to actually become the queen they're preparing her to be. Because history shows us something important. The crown never just changes a country. It changes the person